for coming down. Good to see
Thank
you.
you.
So I guess apparently we're gonna, if you have any questions, we'll answer them as truthfully as possible.
Just like the book, right? So,
Ish. It
One-
is a coloring book. I'm just warning you guys now.
one of the things when we first started this project, going back 3 years ago now, I said to John, look, I really want this to be an honest, account of all of your different stories and experiences across the journey. And I've always thought John's a pretty humble and down-to-earth guy anyway. But I think that's something that... Something wrong with the chair? But I think that really comes through in the book, So I'm just excited for everyone to read it and understand these stories and some of the things that he's experienced. I've documented the history of Motley for over 20 years, so obviously know a lot about the band members, current, past, etc. But I didn't know a lot about John, and particularly his childhood and upbringing. And we all know that Nicky Six had a pretty rough upbringing. There's stories in the dirt about Vince growing up in rough parts of LA and stuff like that. But this guy, his upbringing in Philadelphia is kind of rivals a lot of those stories, and there's a lot of interesting tales that you're about to read in the book. So I'm sure you'll really enjoy it.
Any questions? And no. Okay, thanks for coming. See you guys later.
I'll go
We
first.
didn't want to go first.
I'll go first. John, welcome back to Australia. I'm looking forward to the gig in Melbourne on Thursday night. I couldn't go on Thursday because I had to work, so I'm driving down to see the gig on.
How far is that from here?
It'll take
1,000
me
k's.
it's about
20 minutes?
No, I wish. So looking forward to it. I think it's about 1,000 kilometres, whatever that is in miles.
700 miles?
Yeah, 700 miles. So.
Fuck.
But that's
I
where
wouldn't drive that
that's
far
where I
to
get the
see
chance
me.
to listen to my music. So so I'm looking forward to that. So you said the book was an honest account. You wanted to. I was wondering when you look back over your life, what and you're thinking about the stories and what's put in print. What emotions did that bring up in you? How did that make you feel? And is it something you might want to direct into some sort of artistic expression down the track?
It was interesting because obviously everybody has fond memories or throughout their life, positive things that happened or how you were feeling when something positive was happening. But there was a few things in there, man. It was like reliving like some divorces, for those that don't know, I've been married 3 times. I couldn't figure it out on the first and second one. I had to do it a third time just to be sure. But like going through some of the marriages and how they ended, and just even things like as pleasurable as my first record, like with Motley, was, the second, what became Generation Swine, like just that whole thing that I was going through. I was, we were doing it. So how we did this was like, we kind of did it in an interview fashion. I had never done a book before. Paul has. So he would call me and we would do interviews and we would talk for 3-4 hours, sometimes longer.
Yeah. Saturday morning normally for me, and Friday night for him in Nashville.
Yeah, as he says in the book, him with a cup of tea, me with a Jameson on the rocks, whatever. But it was weird. So we did the interviews, and it didn't really click. But it was when he kind of put it into a form, sent it to me, and I'm like, I would take things out or add things and then send it back to him. We did this 8 or 10 times. But it was like reading some of those stories again, it like kind of puts you back in that whole mentality. So there was a few things, like I was saying, going through the divorces or like leaving Motley or leaving even the Scream, some of those things where I was like, oh fuck, like I got to get away from this for a minute and go make a cup of tea or take a walk, go have a cigarette, whatever. So it did at times give me a little bit of a stomach ache reading it again. You know what I mean? And like kind of reliving the thing. And I've been saying all along, it's really, there's nothing really in the book like like I see the Motley shirts and stuff like that, but there's not really much. There's a few things in there that, like he said he didn't know. There is some things in there that like people that were into Motley or the Scream or whatever, they may go, oh shit, I didn't know that. But for the most part, the book is really kind of dives into my headspace, like what I was thinking when all of this shit was happening. And not even like my departure, even joining the band, because I was in the Scream, but I was still kind of a virtually unknown. And then all of a sudden I'm like in this massive band, and it was like coping with the fact that those guys had been massively successful and they had a certain way of doing things. And I was just sitting there looking at it like, what the fuck? Like, seriously? You know what I mean? So trying to process all that shit. So we kind of just really dive more into me processing everything and trying to suss everything out, It's like he said, it's really super honest.
Yeah.
But again, it's really kind of diving into my headspace, But yeah, there was points where I was like, certain things put a little smile on my face, like the birth of my son and different things like that. I kind of chuckled, oh yeah, that's right. But then there was other things where I'm like, oh man, I got to put this down for a second and walk away from this. It was reopened my eyes again. You know what I mean? It was weird.
Yeah, so overall it was cathartic in a way. Put it all down on paper, do you think?
Yeah, you know what? And I think I've always had a bit of a I try to even my wife now, like even after everything we've all been through, COVID, like she would kind of panic about certain things, and I would look at things in a different light. Like, so I think I try to be positive all the time. But it was like I kind of feel like I just went through everything one more time and then just put it to bed. And it's like, all right, there it is. It's in the book. Put it to bed, and now onward and upward. You know what I mean? Whatever. Hopefully, I'm doing.
You did have to relive it though when you read the audiobook version of it.
Oh yeah,
So
that was interesting.
one of the reasons that we wanted to work with this publisher, Rare Bird, out of Los Angeles, is they've got their own studio where they can record the audiobook versions as well. So John went to LA, spent a number of days,
10 days, yeah.
10 days
Yeah.
reading the book and recording the audiobook version. So when people listen to the audiobook, you'll recognize that it's John's voice telling all these stories, which is, really important. And then what we did was we took a couple of the best stories from the audiobook version, and we're releasing that on 3 different types of vinyl in a gatefold format. And one of those stories is a story that's never been told before about his encounter with a serial killer as a child coming up. So no spoilers, I'll let you read it and experience it for yourself, but just things like that, you're going, wow, it's like, yeah, like there's a lot of crazy shit in this book that is really quite unbelievable. Say what now?
Live here in Australia.
The prison one?
Yeah, no, I didn't meet the serial killer in Australia. So, but there's and it's funny, man. Like doing this book, it was really weird. Like, I mean, we were even talking yesterday. We took a walk from the hotel and went to what bridge is that?
Sydney Harbour Bridge.
We hit the Sydney Harbour Bridge and we walked to the other side, and we were coming back and we were talking about like I call them worker ants. How some people are kind of born to be worker ants their whole life. They work hard, they do their thing, but they never seem to get above the fray, you know what I mean? And part of the thing with the book, the reason why we called it Horseshoes and Hand Grenades, is in the grand scheme of thing, I've had some really super positive things happen to me, like that, you know, it's like, fuck, I can go down in history as the asterisk next to Motley Crue. I'm the only other singer they've ever had, you know, so that part of it was a positive, but it was weird, like the whole term of horseshoes and hand grenades, it's an American phrase that, or well, maybe they say it over here, I don't know, but in America, when we're like, when you do something and you go, ah, shit, I was this close. And people go, close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. Do you know what I mean? So my thing, we were talking about it yesterday, I said, you know, it's really weird. Like if you went to a party and said, told your mates like, hey, I'm gonna go see Steven Tyler tonight at the whatever, you know, everybody in the room would go, oh fuck, Steven Tyler, yeah, you know what I mean? He's like, he's got that household name recognition, and I've just been this guy, like just due to a set of circumstances, always at the right place, always at the wrong time.
Yeah.
You know, and even with the Motley thing, as great as that was, like we were doomed right from the beginning. Like the music industry was changing, everybody at the record label got fired. So as awesome as that was, I never crossed that fray of household name. So if you went to a party and said, hey, I'm gonna go see John Corabi at Utopia Records, most of the people in the party go, why does that name sound familiar? Do you know what I mean? So that's how we were talking about.
Yeah.
Some people are just doomed or deemed, whatever, to be a worker ant their whole life. But on the flip side of it, I try to be positive and go, yeah, but how many worker ants are walking across the Sydney Harbor Bridge and coming to do shows in Australia? You know, so there's this yin and yang thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. So one of the themes in the book that will come through the strongest is perseverance, right? So John's the kind of guy where he's, you know, had these moments of being close, but, you know, not quite there. But one of the things that kind of keeps him going is that kind of faith in a way that, you know, the next thing he does is going to be the real one that kind of breaks through and, you know.
Yeah, my
opens
wife
things
hates
up,
it though too. She goes, man, you're always so fucking positive. And I'm like, well, you gotta be. You know what I mean? It's like some people,
Yeah.
I realize too, like even with us, you know, as musicians, like every musician, crew guy, like everybody was out of work for the last 2.5 years. And I love my wife to death, but even she was like, oh my God, like our money situation, you know, and I just said, yeah, but you know what? We kind of got through it. We still have our house. We still have your business, like property that she owns for the business. I have a beautiful motor home that I travel around in America on. And I said, yeah, things were tight, but there was millions of people that lost their businesses, lost their homes, lost everything. So I have to kind of, you know, I always try to be like positive, or even the new music I'm doing. I don't know if anybody heard, I've got a song out called Casibella. I've got a song called Your Own Worst Enemy. And I tell Paul, like, hey dude, I always send him like the track, hey dude, this is the next one I'm getting ready to release. What do you think? Yep, thumbs up. I go, all right, put it out. And I always sit there with my fingers crossed. I'm like, this is the one. This is the one that's going to do it. This is going to make me Jimmy Barnes in Australia. You know what I mean? So, whatever. It is what it is. But anybody else? Sorry, I'm a rambler. Oh, shut up, Paul.
Come on, 3 favorite artists when you were a kid.
3 favorite artists when I was a
Got to
kid.
deal with the urgent issue.
Well,
Come back and get it off.
it kind of changes